Hello there my Gummy Knights and welcome back to Echo Chamber. Last time on What If Krillin was trained by King Kai after being killed by Tambourine, we left off with the Saiyan saga ending in a grueling victory for our heroes. Meaning that although at the end of the day they ended up winning the battle, in truth it came at a heavy cost, given the fact that the only two remaining Z fighters left were Krillin and Goku.
Last night took a L, but tonight I bounce back. Wake up every morning, by the night I count stacks. Knew that ass was real when I hit it, bounce back.
Moments after the battle, just like in canon, the remaining group that was at Kame House ends up coming down in order to pick them up, as well as retrieving the bodies of their fallen comrades. And although both Goku and Krillin were not as injured as they were in canon, they still were suffering pretty heavily. And thus they inquired to Korn as to whether or not he had any senzu beans, but he sadly informed them that he did not, instead opting that they should go to a hospital in order to be able to rest up and recuperate, albeit this was still more so for the benefit of Goku rather than Krillin. On the plane right there, the group begins discussing the most recent events that just transpire, mainly in speaking towards the idea of coming up with a way in order to be able to resurrect everyone who ended up dying on the battlefield. Given the fact that as far as they knew, without Kami they lacked Dragonballs and thus had no other way in order to be able to restore people back to the land of the living. In the midst of their wondering, Goku ends up chiming up, revealing that he remembers something that was specifically said on the battlefield. This would be the fact that Nappa called Piccolo a Namekian. At first the group is lost on the significance of this. That is until Goku points out the fact that he too was called by a different name. The fact is he was indeed a Saiyan, which turned out to be an alien race that was not native to Earth. In pointing this out, he figures that Piccolo was called a different species that was not native to the Earth, or at least he assumed it was not native to the Earth. He had to surmise the idea that he too could possibly have been an alien, and that whatever home planet that he was on, there could be a lot more like him, that most likely, or at least he was hoping, would have created Dragon Balls, thus for them to be able to use, and that they could just go to that planet, thus allowing them to be able to bring their friends back to life. The entire group was shocked, as for one, they recognized that that was a good idea and did have a possibility of working, and two, that it was coming from Goku of all people, as I never expected him to be, well, as intelligent as he was showcasing here. However, both Krillin and Bulma point out that they have no way of knowing where Namek is. This is when the group begins to hear a voice inside of their heads, which turns out to be King Kai, pointing out the idea that he knew exactly where Namek was, given the fact that he is the Kai over this domain, and we've seen in both canon and non-canon that King Kai was indeed able to help and point out not only where Namek was, including New Namek after the original Namek was destroyed, but also where other planets were, even if they weren't inside of his domain. Once getting to the hospital, we established that Goku would be healed in no more than a month. This is actually significantly less time than he was healed originally in canon, and not only that, it is also pointed out in the original canon that Korn would have new senzu beans within the same amount of time, so this works on both levels. Once Goku was recuperated and fully healed, they would end up making the trip to Namek. In the meantime, both Goku and Krillin made it a point to continue their training, because although they were also informed by King Kai that the Namekians are a peaceful race, and do not particularly like violence, and they are more or less like Kami, where they are very much gentle, the duo still didn't have an exact idea as to what to expect. Mainly they were worried about the fact that Vegeta was still on the hunt for the Dragon Balls, and most likely once he recuperated himself, that there was a possibility that he would still be in search for the Dragon Balls, maybe even ending up going to Namek himself. And knowing him, it was a high likelihood that he would not be going there at the same power level that he was when they fought on Earth, and that he would be most likely significantly stronger than what they saw him as here. So they want to be prepared for such a possibility. Bulma then chimed in, expressing the idea that she may have a way to help them with their training, as a year ago she got very intrigued with the idea of gravity training after hearing the properties of King Kai's planet and how it could make you significantly stronger. Bulma then goes on to reveal the fact that she had indeed created a gravity chamber that she was intending to use to help the Z fighters with their training, but wasn't able to do it before the Saiyans arrived. However, it was available to them, and it can not only go up to just 10 times gravity, but it actually can go even further than that. Both Goku and Krillin's eyes widened as they perked up in excitement. The only problem that they saw with this was the fact that it would take at least again a month for Goku to be able to recuperate, so they wouldn't have much time to be able to use it. It would only be a benefit to Krillin as he was less injured, but given the fact that they both know that training partners can make you significantly stronger, they both thought it would be much more beneficial if Goku was able to go with them. This actually ended up giving Bulma another idea. Rather than teleporting to Namek, what if she could actually incorporate this gravity chamber within a ship of some kind that could end up completing the trip to Namek, but also giving them the time to train. Thus, once Goku recuperated, this will be ready and available for them to be able to use, and they can both get the benefits that comes with training in the gravity chamber. Her further going on to point out to whereas they don't necessarily have the proper technology in order to create a ship like that on Earth, that wouldn't end up being that much of a problem going forward, given the fact that she pointed out to both Goku and Krillin was currently in the process of retrieving the other space pod that Nappa came in when the Saiyans landed on Earth. And that once they had it, along with the help of her father, they should be able to fashion a ship based around that technology in order to aid them in their goals. Of course, the caveat being the fact that it would take a bit longer in order to be able to fashion a ship, much longer than what Goku would be recuperating for. But no more than 5 months at the most. Both Krillin and Goku, although reluctant at first, ended up accepting Bulma's proposal, as it was the best options for them going forward. And they didn't really mind the time off. It would give them ample time to rest, and they could still do some training outside of the gravity chamber that should be effective. Although we're getting another time skip, nothing of really note is going to be happening here. Just pretty much over the next 5 months, they're going to do exactly what I proposed, and they're just going to be doing some light training after Goku has recuperated. Him and Krillin are just going to be going back and forth training. Now, actually what I'm going to be doing is actually having Gohan begin to, add in himself there into the fray, and Goku trying to teach him a little bit here and there, because after all, like I said, he does have a personality shift, so he is a bit more family oriented. And given the fact that he was away from Gohan, and given the fact that he's about to go out in space, and who knows how long the journey is going to take, and who knows how long it's going to take him away from the home, he actually decides to start training Gohan along with Krillin and instructing him, not only because this will be a chance for them to do some bonding, but also because he knows that in the hopefully unlikely situation that he should perish, that Gohan would have to take up that step, even though he's still so young, to be part of the Earth's next team of defense. He was going to start pushing that mindset onto him and kind of like begin to teaching him. And actually, over the course of this training, he ends up seeing some high levels of potential in Gohan. In the same way that Piccolo ended up seeing the high levels of potential in Gohan once he threw him out of the mountain, although Goku would definitely not be doing any of that. And in fact, this is actually going to play a major role in terms of Gohan's motivations and going forward with his character, and you'll get to see that a little bit later within the story, and why the change was made. Addressing a little bit of it here, I gotta kind of have him leaning towards more so of a fighting mentality, and this is kind of the idea of what's being pushed onto him, given the fact that he feels a bit more coddled than what he would used to be within the original timeline. 5 months came and went, and now it was time for our heroes to set off on their journey to Namek. Although Krillin and Goku ended up getting some unexpected company in the form of Bulma. And whereas they did try to urge her how dangerous the mission would be, she then went on kind of a tangent to explain and express to them exactly why she was so vital to this mission, and why she definitely was going no matter what they said. And besides the both of them there, she felt that she was as safe as she could be. They of course were not about to argue with this, and just decided to go ahead and start loading up the luggage, so that way they would be able to take off. The trio saying goodbye to the rest of their friends and family, Goku giving a special goodbye specifically to Chi-Chi and Gohan, on Chi-Chi's end promising that he would come back to her alive, and even giving her a quick kiss on the cheek, which Krillin does tease him a little bit for. And going on to Gohan, basically reassuring him as well, and letting him know that he shouldn't be sad, that he had to protect his mother now. But still with that, Gohan was indeed sad, because he actually really wanted to go with Goku. And even though he actually started begging him within the moment if he could actually travel with him, Goku made sure to let him know that he was going to have to put his foot down on this one, wasn't going to be able to allow him to go, especially given the danger of the mission, promising him that he would indeed have his chance and that he should keep training. Gohan, though Saturn, does hear his father's words, saying okay. Goku then rubs his head and pulls him in for a hug. Our trio then boarded the ship and gave one last goodbye to their friends and family. But right as the doors were closing, Master Roshi actually ended up calling out that they had forgotten a piece of luggage. Goku quickly hops off, grabs it, and gets on the ship as the doors close, and then they rocketed off into space. But back on the ground, once the dust was all cleared, and the ship was no longer in the view, the group began to leave the field, only for Chi to begin to looking around. After a few moments, she started to get frantic, shouting out, "Wait, where's Gohan?" Meanwhile, back on the ship, both Goku and Krillin were in absolute awe. As they're not only surprised at how quick it was able to be accomplished in building the ship, but the fact that they basically had everything, from food to beds to baths, to even a special button that when they pushed on it would summon up muffins. Of course, Bulma would get them a tour of the complete ship, as well as showing them the gravity room that was installed on here where they'd be able to actually train, further going on to inform them that although it was not as fast as its transmission, they were still able to cut down the time that it would take to get to Namek significantly, her telling them that in fact it would only take about 6 days. So in little less than a week, they would would arrive on Namek. The two were elated about this, and although the time was shorter than it was for Bulma, Gohan, and Krillin originally, this would not affect them too much, as they would mostly spend most of the time training, and would still most likely see significant gains. I mean, after all, Goku went from a power level of 8,000 to 90,000 in just 6 days. So yeah, that would be plenty of time for them to get stronger. Sometime later, after they had finally all gotten completely settled in, Goku and Krillin were about to head up to the gravity room and begin their training when they heard a yelp from Bulma. Going down to investigate, she pointed out to them that there was something moving within the luggage, as when she went there to grab an outfit so that way she can take a shower and get ready to get some sleep, one of the bags ended up moving. Both Goku and Krillin went over there to investigate. Being up on guard, they had no idea what this could be, but upon Krillin reaching over and opening the bag, a little half-saying ended up rolling out of it, in the form of Gohan. Everyone's mouths dropped to the floor, as Gohan nervously chuckled, saying hi to everyone. Goku couldn't even believe his eyes. He was utterly baffled, and he was actually kind of upset, prepared to yell at Gohan, who immediately started apologizing profusely, but expressing that he just had to come, and that he was sorry for disobeying Goku, but he felt like he had to come. I mean, after all, it was just the innocence of a kid who was worried about his father. But even still, Goku grabbed hold of Gohan and was definitely ready to teleport him back to Earth when he was stopped by Krillin. Understanding the kid's feelings, maybe he could indeed end up being useful to him. And besides, it'd be a great experience for him. Bulma was actually happy somewhat about this too, as she recognized that both Krillin and Goku would probably be spending most of their time training, and then so that way she wouldn't get lonely, she would actually have someone to be able to talk to and at least hang around. And eventually, after some time, Goku ended up relenting and decided to let him stay, just praying to calm that nothing bad happens to him, otherwise Namek would be the least of his worries. And that was the end right there. Okay, my Gummy Knights, so this actually happened to end up being a little bit of a filler episode, something to tie you guys over, because we are about to break into the Namek saga, and so that's a really big thing. So I want to make sure it's actually done right, and I actually want to make sure the story is tight and concise. So I'm doing a bit of more reworking, and I'm trying to get a few things done here and there. That way you guys can have the best of what I could give to you. Because I'm not going to do anything half-assed, especially when there's something like a passion project that I have, which this would be a great example of that. So I actually wanted to put in as much effort as I can to making sure it's actually good and digestible for you guys. So I know that this was, again, a bit long for a filler episode, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And let me know down in the comments below how you think the story is going to unfold and perhaps what could happen next. Get some predictions out there. You never know. And guess what? That also includes being able to come up with some ideas. Who knows? Maybe I'll borrow some. Get you guys' input on it. Anyway, catch you in the next one. Peace.
And to all my Gummy Knights, new and old, just remember, this is a man's world, but it would be nothing without his brain and his bronze. And lying is indeed the most fun that a woman can have, without taking off her clothes. Good night.
Desperate for attention, I aim to be your eyes, trophy boys, trophy wives. Applause, applause, no wait, dear studio audience, I've an announcement to make. It seems the artists these days are not who you think, so we'll pick back up on that on another page.